Cruze, y'all.
Well.
Ooh, that makes it sound like a party.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to this fine radio show, podcast, and video extravaganza known worldwide as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It is show number 239. My name is Cruze. My co-host is Ian Barry, and I have to say I'm so glad to be back because I was out for the show last week, and Ian did the show with a guest host, and they nailed it. I was
Joel
watching,
Swift, y'all.
I was watching Joel and Ian on YouTube, and I thought, I got to get back in there and save my job.
Well, I was going to talk about this off air, but what I'm starting to think now is you might be holding me back.
That's what I think you've long suspected. I really do.
No, I got to tell you, having to step into your role in this job, it's tougher than you think. Like having to try and hit the hitting the brakes at the beginning.
Post, yeah.
Hit the post.
Well,
that's what it was.
You don't have to hit the post. That's just
I know, but
that's
you
just
set a bar.
That's an old habit that I picked up from like being a radio DJ, which, by the way, I saw recently a listing of the most and least desirable jobs. And did you know radio DJ on this list of like 300 different occupations, way towards the bottom, and only one step above rodeo clown. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. So it's not like it's a grand profession. I am not bragging. I'm just saying I wasn't qualified to do much of anything else. But those old habits die hard.
There was a time though when that would have been way on the top of the list.
I
that
think
would have been like
70s
and 80s,
sure.
I think.
Back in the day, that everybody loved the DJ, but then the big corporations came in and took over, and the DJs couldn't pick the records anymore, and it was it just became less and less of a thing. I think and these days people don't know we host a number of online radio stations here in the same company that owns Smokin' and Toastin', and we have young lady who's 16 years old who was just training to be an on-air personality on one of these stations. She's 16. She had no idea what on-air DJs sounded like. It wasn't part of her experience
no one
at all.
listens to it anymore.
Because she doesn't listen to the radio. She listens to streaming stuff and what have you. Anyway, she's coming along great. She's doing a wonderful job. Hi, Lauren. But that's just part of the reality of the world that we live in. The DJ is a quickly disappearing, going the way of the dodo.
What was that weird station? Was it Jack Radio or something like that that had the completely no personality DJs?
No DJs. Sure, there's a lot of that.
That was really weird.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. And if you grow up just listening to your Spotify or something like that, you may wonder why would you want somebody interrupting you in between the songs?
See, when I grew up, you listened to the radio and you got to know the DJs through the radio, and you totally wanted to be like where they were. It was always the party.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
right? You remember that?
I remember when there was no CD, no streaming, and we would sit there with our boombox and the cassette thing, and our favorite DJ would come on, and then we would hit it, and we'd record it, and then we'd make copies for our friends.
My first cassette tapes were all taped off of the radio.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I used to have a little microphone with my cassette recorder, and I'd put it up to the speaker of the. But I won't tell you the details about the other part, which was then I would practice talking over the intro myself.
That was amazing. Yeah. I bet.
Well, welcome. We should introduce our guest. LaShaun Arceneaux is with us. LaShaun, welcome.
Thank you.
LaShaun is a chef, bartender, and chemist.
This is true.
And you're involved in a whole new thing right now, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's something I've been thinking about, something I've done at home, and then COVID really kind of brought it to the forefront. Right? People weren't going to bars, they weren't able to go out and get drinks, things like that. And at home, we'd always done a steep thing. We called it cocktail tea, right? And then somebody said I should call it a cocktail sachet. It sounds fancier.
Nice.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
I know, right? But all we did was took all the ingredients for a cocktail, either freeze dried it or dehydrated it so it would be fresh and it would last longer. And then we just infused things. So like our old fashioned, this little sachet has got bitter orange in it. It's got cherries. It's got sugar. It's got all the components that you get from an old fashioned.
So somebody like me who is cocktailishly challenged could use something like this and make really good, expensive and complex tasting cocktails.
Yeah, your friends will think that you're amazing. So all we do is, for us at home, we've got a mason jar that's a gallon jar with a pump on it. So we kind of fill it with bourbon, and then we throw some of these tea bags in there, and then after work, you just put ice in your glass and get a couple pumps out of that mason jar and get a smoke, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, this brings whole. I mean, I've done that with like sun tea, but this is so happening
Yes,
now.
this is going to be a thing.
Well, LaShaun, welcome. We want to hear all about your stuff as the program unravels here. I was going to say continues, but unravels seems so much more accurate, doesn't it?
That means it's raveled in the first place.
We want to hear all about what you've got going on, and we've got a lot of things to talk about. We'll be doing some beer tasting on the show as well, which is, our custom here at Smoking and Toasting.
That's our jam.
Yes. Firestone Walker stumbled across this. Actually, my wife found this. I love
Firestone Walker.
My wife found this and brought it home. Ian, you may remember a couple of summers ago, I spent a month in Los Angeles, and you came out to visit me when I was out there, and we did a show, remember, down from the Beverly Hills Cigar Lounge?
Beverly Hills Cigar Lounge.
It was a lot of fun. One of the things I discovered while I was out there, of course, Firestone Walker's everywhere because they're from Pasa, Robles, California. But what I discovered was the sort of like go-to beer that every bar had, either on tap or in the bottles, was the 805.
Oh, man, I buy it.
And
all the time now.
And you can get it here now, and
it's
wonderful. It's a great lager. It's very refreshing, perfect summer beer. Well, Firestone Walker has now, my wife brought this home, released the 805 Cerveza. And it's the 805 with it's the 805 with lime. So
weird. I
this
don't know
will
what
be
to say about
interesting.
that.
Yeah, I don't either. Now I'm not a big fan of
I'm confused. I don't usually put fruit in beer.
Well, I'm not a big fan of, let's say, Bud Light with lime.
And by usually, I mean never.
But then again, I'm not a big fan of Bud Light. So, so it's going to be interesting because I have huge respect for.
Did you ever have
Walker.
that Bud Light canned Clamato?
No.
That looked horrible to me.
Well, not only did it look horrible, but it sounded a little too much like some sort of sexual disease. So I thought I just want to stay as far away from that as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing about that seemed inviting to me. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, okay. So in addition to the 805 Cerveza from Firestone Walker, we'll be trying a double IPA called Dabbling in Fun. It's from Moore Brewing Company from Huntley, Illinois. And then we've had a number of this last brewery's beers on the show. They've always been very good, very complex. A lot of them have been IPAs, but in this case, from Anchorage Brewing Company, their Imperial Stout called Sent by Liars.
Oh.
So this will be a very interesting thing to
Doesn't
try.
they make the Narwhal Stout?
Yes,
right?
yeah, and
that's
they
really
do.
good.
They do make some stouts and some sours and some, different farmhouse ale type beers as well. But they're really probably best known for their IPAs, kind of like Firestone Walker. They were best known for their IPAs until 805 came out and kind of became the runaway California.
The runaway
beer.
hit,
yeah. So anyway, so we have all of that coming up. Plus, we'll be tasting some cocktails. These are old fashions, right? Oh, I can't wait. They just look so good. And so we'll find out more about all of that as we go. Plus, drinking news. Now, I didn't get a chance to finish the show. Did you guys do drinking news last week?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. I'm about halfway through watching and listening to last week's show, so I haven't gotten to it yet.
We were about halfway through a sobriety by about that point in time in the show.
I know, because you were tasting all those aged beers, right?
Yes.
So, it was very interesting. But I did think that you might have done drinking news because I saw the ukulele.
The ukulele was
sitting
in full effect, yes.
Right, yeah. So, all right. So I'm excited about that. In the meantime, we have drinking news once again today, and our drinking news teaser headline is, "We interrupt for a very special report." I'm going to give us a little musical. All right, so that's gonna be good. Cigars International is launching a Buffalo Trace cigar. We'll tell you all about that, and even maybe if we get a chance to get to this, the 22 best gifts to get beer lovers.
That's a whole company that makes whiskey infused cigars. Ted's makes Whiskey infused cigars. I don't know where their cigars are sourced from. I've had like the Maker's Mark one before, and
Yes.
it's okay.
It's okay. I don't think this one is infused. I think it's just designed to pair with a little Buffalo Trace.
Neat.
But we'll examine that a little closer later on. And a new report has come out about the craft breweries in Houston, and I want to share a little bit, since we're based in Houston, I want to share a little bit of that. It's kind of something
Near
we're a
and
little
dear.
proud of, I think,
yeah.
here. So that plus a lot of other stuff going on. And, of course, our special guest, LaShaun, is going to tell us all about what she has going on and exactly how
pretty
she
excited about
manages
that.
to do this, because I'm fascinated by the whole concept. So looking forward to all of that. Ian, how was your week? Did you have a chance to smoke something
My week
interesting?
was good. Actually, I did. I went by Casa today. The folks over at Casa, by the way, was chatting with Jason over there, and we got to talking. And I'm going to have a couple lists coming out of
Now,
Casa.
I heard you mention that on last week's show. Yeah.
They're working on them. As a matter of fact, I asked them about them today when I was there, and they're working on some lists of best budget cigars and a few other things that I think they got in the works.
Oh, I
so I'm
think
pretty
that's
excited
good.
about that.
So I think what we should do is we should go over there and like stand in the humidor and have them reveal the list. Like we'll do a little video thing.
Oh, that would
and then
be
we
fun.
can insert it in the show. Either that or we'll have them come in. But if we go over there, we can smoke. So that'll be.
I like that.
See, method to my madness.
That sounds
yeah.
like, you know what would be fun is if we meet up some point in time that isn't the show, we could pre-record that list.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. And enjoy a little,
enjoy a cigar.
enjoy a little smoke and hang out, and then we'll insert it into the show.
That does
That'll be
not
fun.
sound like the worst idea we've
No,
had.
I have a good one occasionally.
So while I was over there, I picked up a couple cigars, and one of them I picked up was the Southern Draw Manzanita.
I like Southern Draw a lot. I have not had the Manzanita.
Manzanita means little apple.
Little apple.
Little
Okay.
apple. And apparently the leaf that they use as the wrapper on this has a very reddish color, especially when it's new, and it looks a lot like the leaf from the Manzanita tree. So that's where it gets its name.
When I hear the word Manzanita, my brain already adds and Puerto Vallarta. I don't know why. I think I've got that.
It takes you places.
I think I've got that wrong, but in any case, the Manzanita.
So this was the Robusto that I tried, 5.5 by 54 size. The appearance on this leathery, veiny, oily, reddish brown wrapper, firm overall with some softer spots. Nice looking cigar. Got two labels on it, the Southern Draw label, and then a second label that says Manzanita on it. The pre-light sniff on this was leathery, very leathery, earthy. It reminded me, it had that kind of leaves on the ground, kind of autumn day kind of smell to it. So I just wrote down autumn day, but that means a lot, like in my brain. That smell was really, really nice. It had a sweetness to the pre-light sniff, cedar, fermented hay, a little bit of barnyard going on in there. It had a lot of stuff going on. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip, effortless draw. Sweet, creamy coffee came through, leather, wood, hint of mocha, and then hints of all the other things that I mentioned right off the nose. The initial light on this, tangy pepper. Not a blast of black pepper like you get from a Nicaraguan tobacco, but kind of a tangy pepper, almost like a green pepper towards the back of the palate. Kind of interesting. Fresh cut lumber, sweet spices, fermented hay, leather, and an underlying kind of nuttiness to it. And that's right off the initial light. Mm-hmm. That's like the first blast of flavor.
It's a pretty good combo of flavors.
This cigar, I put a note on here. It takes no time to settle in. Like it was a quarter-inch in, and it was a full to its flavor with the initial light kind of burned off. Leather and earth wrapped in sweet nuttiness, dried cedar. Much cedar was coming through here. Retrohale was tangy, that same tangy pepper, cedar, and a hint of chocolate. Solid ash, perfect burn through the first third of this. It was a great cigar. The second third of this, cedar, leather, chocolate kind of dominate this medium strength cigar. Retrohale, cedar, and pepper with a woody note. Solid ash, uneven burn.
Oh, that surprises me a little.
Second third of this cigar had kind of an uneven burn thing, which I didn't tend until the last third of this cigar. I tended it right before I started the last third of this because it was getting a little bit of a run. You'll see it in the picture going on. But once I tended it, the last third of this burned just fine.
I don't mind really having to tend a cigar as long as I don't have to tend it the whhole time.
Yeah, if
You know
you
what
have
I mean?
to just keep your eye on it, like be paranoid about it and keep your eye on it, that's kind of less fun. But this one wasn't so bad. No, it was wonky in the middle third of this, and then the last third of this. Once I tended it, it was fine. A little bit of tea leaf kind of sneaked in among the rampant cedar and bitter chocolate notes. Underlying leather and sweetness remains. This cigar ticked a lot of boxes off for me. I really, really like the blend of flavors in here. I like the sweetness with the cedar. I like the creamy kind of overall flavors, the dark chocolate, kind of bitter chocolate notes that were underlying through here. The retrohale was particularly pleasant on this cigar. It probably made it to almost a full medium strength by the end of this cigar, but it wasn't super strong, or it didn't have too much pepper to be distracting or anything like that. It really had an overall nice balance to it.
Love it.
This, however, is $13.55 for a Robusto.
Okay, for a Robusto.
That's an expensive cigar.
Yes, it
That's
is.
super premium at that point.
If it were larger, maybe not, but yeah. For a
Churchill
Robusto,
at that price but a Robusto at that price is pretty pricey.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I was expecting a lot from, almost $14. Well, by the time you pay tax, local tax and everything on top of that, I mean, that's a pretty expensive cigar. So you're topping $14. I enjoyed this cigar so much, I gave it a 5.
Okay.
I would have given it a 6 if there were no burn issues at all.
Right.
Easily would have given it a 6. But at $14 for a cigar, I don't want any burn issues. Now, I suspect I probably just got a random one. I've had tons of Southern Draw cigars. I'm a big fan.
I've never had a burn problem at all.
Yeah, Robert Holt makes great cigars, and the truth is, I would give this a 6 easy if I had no burn issues. So, based on flavor, try this cigar.
Yeah, LaShaun, the way our rating system works is we use the 1 to 10 scale, but we call it price to quality. So a 5 means you get exactly what you paid for. Like you didn't overpay. And if anything rates above a 5, it means it really punched above its weight class, so to speak, and means that you wouldn't have been disappointed if you'd paid a couple of dollars more and it did performed exactly like it did. So to get a 5 with a burn problem. With a little bit of a burn problem, it's still a
good
very,
cigar.
very good rating.
It's a good cigar.
And I've never been disappointed by Southern Draw. Their whole line, I think, is just absolutely fantastic.
There's Cedrus. I don't think it's out anymore, but their Cedrus was one that every time I saw it, I would buy it. It's so good.
It's absolutely great. All right, I smoked something interesting, too. I'm going to tell you about that coming up in the next segment. And, ordinarily, Ian, we start out by tasting one of the beers, but I keep touching this glass and it's cold, and I want to go here while there's some cold. So we'll open up our next segment with a little old-fashioned tasting, and we'll do that coming up next. You've got Smoking and Toasting, episode number 239. And by the way, we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web. Ian's wearing one today, and we'll be right back. MyCigarShirts.com, because
cigars.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are joined today on show number 239 by chef, bartender, and chemist LaShaun Arceneaux. And we met LaShaun. I think I met you for the first time at the Whiskey Sniff.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember you had wonderful goodies with you.
Yeah, I think that I'd done some bourbon ice cream with a salted bourbon caramel, and then there was also a rum bread pudding.
Yeah. Just keep talking, because
all,
I'm loving
all the boozy treats.
There's nothing you said that I don't find amazing.
I love treats and I love booze, and so it's a good way to I don't have to choose. I can have both at the same time.
To put all your loves together.
Now, I have been
thing.
known.
Yeah.
Like I don't do a lot of ice cream, but I have been known to be sitting there with ice cream and going, you know what this needs?
Bourbon.
and poured some bourbon on the ice cream, and that's good.
It is good. It's kind of like Reese's peanut butter cup. It's the two great tastes that taste great together. Well, so I'm excited. We're gonna try this. We're gonna try this old fashioned that you whipped up, and I'll have you explain to us exactly how you did that in a moment. But first, I want to tell you about this cigar that I smoked. I went to the humidor. And was looking around for something that I hadn't talked about on the show yet, and pulled out something called a Don Puro. Master blender Julio Castillo did this cigar. It's a Maduro Toro, and it was given to me by one of the guests that we had here on the show. And I hadn't smoked it. It was sitting there in the humidor, and I thought, okay, you know what? I'll give this a try. It should be a little different from, maybe what I usually do. So it was a very nice looking cigar. Not much information on this on the web. Usually while I'm smoking it and making my notes, I'll go on the web and look and see, okay, what kind of tobacco
Wrapper,
is this?
binder,
Right,
filler,
exactly.
yeah.
Couldn't find any of that information. I am assuming that it's primarily Dominican because it was kind of a mild to medium cigar. But again, I could be wrong. It's a Maduro. Toro size had that scraggly capped foot, which I love. I have no idea why, but
Because it's cool and different.
It's just cool and different, yeah. And
a lot of the Christophs come like that, with the shaggy foot.
Yes, and I like that. You may see in the photos there is a crack in the outer wrapper close to the head of the cigar. It was actually that way when I got it, so it wasn't like it cracked when I lit it up or something. So what I did is I just smoked it very carefully. Sometimes you can do that and you keep it from disintegrating on you. I very, very carefully used my punch, just like as slow and gently as I could, so I wouldn't crack anything more loose and stuff. And then took a little extra care when I was smoking it to try to keep it from unraveling.
Cracks are tough to gauge too, because sometimes you get a crack and you can smoke it pretty fine if you do like what you're talking about, smoking very gently. But sometimes you get one that has a leak.
Yeah.
And then it's like having a leaky straw when you're trying to take a sip of soda. It's terrible.
It doesn't help at all. Yeah, you can't get the smoke through, and sometimes it goes full Gurkha on you and just explodes. So it's something you have to be, cognizant of. And I knew going in that could happen, but fortunately, actually for this one, it really didn't. There wasn't too much complexity on the pre-light, just that kind of cured Maduro tobacco smell and a little bit of earth. So, like I said, I carefully used the punch and lit it up to see where the Don Puro would take me. First stop, toast. I got a distinctive flavor burst of toasted bread from the first several puffs, and then it was underscored by what reminded me of toasted marshmallows.
Oh, nice.
And it actually worked really well together, but I'm so used to, I smoke so many Nicaraguan cigars that I'm used to that first blast being big and pepper, and it wasn't like that at all. It was much more subtle, very toasty, and very nice. Toast actually remained the prominent flavor throughout the first third, and I'll tell you, really all the way to the end. This was a toasty cigar. There was a note of leather, a little bit of nuttiness as well, and it picked up as it kind of started heading towards the second third. It picked up this creaminess, which worked really well with the toast, and that stayed pretty much throughout the whole cigar as well. Burn was a little bit uneven, but it smoked well, so I didn't end it. The second third stayed toasty, added some baking spice, and like when your mom made those rolls that she can get them at the grocery store and
just stick them
in the oven and heat them up like at Thanksgiving.
They're already like
stuff.
pan shaped,
right? So you know how they'll have like a little coating of flour on top of them. Okay, that taste was evident in the cigar.
Nice.
That sort of floury. I was going to say flour, but that flour is not necessarily a great
but
taste.
It's a floury
but when it's on
taste,
top of that bread, it's a great taste, and that's what I got a little bit of. I stayed careful with the head of the cigar so far. It held together all the way through to the halfway point, and it really did up until the very end when the burn line sort of reached where the crack was, and then but I was really happy actually that it stayed together the way it did.
Well, it says something to the construction of a cigar when it's abused and it still smokes well.
And again, the burn was a little crooked. It kind of straightened itself out as it went without being retouched. And the ash held on like crazy. In fact, it held on so well that I became tempted to just keep going, and finally had a very Ian-esque incident where it fell on my shirt and the keyboard, and I had to do a little cleanup. But that was my fault. I mean, I had kept it on way longer than I probably should have. The strength ramped up a little bit by the final third, but for the most part, this was a mild to medium-bodied smoke. A little bit of licorice and some minerality in the last third too, but that creaminess that I mentioned stayed until the very end. For me, the Don Puro was a pleasant surprise. Part of the surprise is I couldn't find out any information about it.
Right.
But so I didn't know what to expect. But it smoked really, really well. I wish I could have found more info, and since it was a gift, I'm not even sure
There's
how much
no price
it cost.
point, right? Well,
Yeah.
that kind of makes it a pure review,
smoking
right?
experience, I guess so. So for price to quality, I'm going to give it a 5 at $10.
Okay, so we're just going to guess
right.
it at $10.
If it was a $10 cigar, I would totally give it a 5. I appreciated the fact that for a milder cigar, it had plenty of toasty and creamy flavors. It's not like some of the mild ones where you just get that kind of mild tobacco taste, and that's really the only thing that you get out of it. So if you can find the Don Puro, it's a great buy at $10 or less, and I recommend it. So
on
wish I had more.
comments, where did apparently where's the pictures was one of the comments. I just realized when I saw that comment that I forgot to send my cigar pictures in.
Oh, so
we didn't
we
have
had
any
mine
pictures.
though, didn't we, Adam? Okay.
So
All
you
right.
got pictures. I didn't get
I
pictures.
got Well, all right.
Well, that sounds like that's funny because I
can show you my shirt where the ash. That'll be.
I don't know where you got that. That cigar looks completely unfilliar to me, so I don't know.
Well, I'd
There's
never
no telling
seen
where
it
you picked
before.
up.
Again, it was one of our guests gave it to me, and I think it was one of our spirit guests, and I think his company was looking at maybe doing something with them or something like that. So I'll have to go back.
I still
and
have
look at the show
that
notes.
Garrison Brothers cigar that
Yes.
that I need to sit down.
That's in
and
the tube?
Enjoy. Yeah, I want to talk about that one.
I've got that one as well. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. So speaking of things that I enjoy, old fashions are very high on that list, and we've got a group of them here. So
This
I'm
old fashioned is taunting.
pass one over to Adam there, and so now tell us exactly. Obviously, we know what goes into an old fashioned, or at least I think we do. But you made this using some of your bags and extracts.
So just to run down, like a regular old fashioned is your bourbon,
right,
and then it's orange bitters. Is that correct?
So bitters,
and then simple syrup, and usually you have a cherry. Yeah.
So what we've got is a freeze-dried cherry, and that's important because what we've done is it's freeze-dried during the season. So it's maintaining its freshness, and because it's freeze-dried, it'll last forever, right? You can take these into like an Armageddon shelter with you and live on them forever.
When the zombie apocalypse comes.
And because we wanted to kind of get around the TABC rules about bitters, because they're alcoholic, we've sourced a bitter orange from Sevilla, Spain. So what it does is it mimics that flavor that you get from orange bitters, but
it's
something
not
that's
alcohol,
but it's
right.
not alcoholic, right? So
Right.
even someone that doesn't drink could have this with like seedlip or some other non-alcoholic spirit
Plus,
and still
it
enjoy.
allows you to make it available without having to worry about THC.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah.
And then for the sugar, we've done a raw turbinado sugar. So it's kind of, if you were going to make that super rich simple syrup, because I really don't like it with white sugar because it's stripped of really all the flavor, the caramel, the
turbinado
toast.
has a very distinct
Yeah,
flavor.
and so that's all in this bag, and it's really easy. I mean, you've got this jar.
Can I open this?
Yeah.
All right, so tell me, let's say I'm at home and I've got this bag.
You're
I've
at
got
home
this
and
from
you've got
you.
this bag.
And it says right here on the top of it
Yeah.
to pour your favorite spirit into this jar and to let it sit. The longer you leave me, the richer the flavor. So that's it. So that's all I've done.
So I would take this jar with the bag in it,
Yep.
right? And I would pour the bourbon or rum or whatever. I would pour directly into the jar.
It's an
and close it.
old-fashioned tea bag, basically.
I love it. What a
And you know what?
tremendous
Imagine
idea.
you're going on a ski trip, you're going camping, you're going someplace.
Right.
You don't want to take all these bottles with you, right? You can be in the deer blind with this in your bourbon and just have your old fashioned ready to go all the time.
Think about that. You're out tubing and you're tubing down the river with an old fashioned
Right.
that you made just before you got into the inner tube.
Yeah.
I love this idea.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just fun. And we've got other flavors, but old fashioned is my thing, right? And then we also sell like a little pack of these cherries that are extra extra. And so in mine, I always put the little cherry bomb, I call it. So I put a couple of extra
love it.
cherries because
It
it's
It
just
says
good.
serve over ice is an old fashioned with lemonade for an old fashioned lemonade. Wow.
And if you took that old-fashioned lemonade, because of that's the chemistry part, right? Because of the alcohol to water ratio, you could freeze it. You could make popsicles that you could have out at the pool. You could put it in like a little slushy pack.
I love this idea. So tell me about this. What interests me the most, I think, about this is every bit as full-flavored as if we had someone who stood here and mixed together all of the ingredients. And that to me is amazing. Are the bags, is it one use?
So I have found that we put 4 ounces because, through our testing, we found that that's the best flavor. But I typically go ahead and refill mine one more time. So that way, because it's so much flavor in there, and you can tell when you look at it. So if you look at this one, you can see what I'm looking for is the cherry, right? Once it's all used up, the cherry is going to turn white because what it's done, it's actually leaching all the color and flavor out of the cherry. And so once that turns white, that's the point where I just go ahead and stop using it.
So what's the normal amount of time once you pour the bourbon in and put the cap back on? What would you recommend?
This was poured in right before I got here.
No kidding.
So this
Wow.
is less than an hour old.
That even sun tea takes longer than
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Because everything is freeze dried or dehydrated, it's almost like a sponge, right?
As
It
soon as
sucks
the
in the
moisture
liquid
hits
and it spits it back out.
So do you sell these in a shop? Are they available online? How do people get them?
They can buy them online, and we are actually opening up a cocktail market in
That's
the
what I
Garden
heard,
Oaks
yes,
Upper
yeah.
Heights area. And what that's going to be is a place where you can come. I love cigars. I love bourbon. I love drinks. And so it's all the things I always wanted to have, right?
Why don't we hang out more often?
We should.
Because you love all the stuff that I love,
And interestingly enough, we actually just got a bunch of cigars from a company that the owners are local that I'm good friends with, and I have a rye barrel that we then made a barrel-aged gin in, and we're going to throw all those cigars in that barrel, and then we're going to barrel age it just for fun to see what it tastes like.
Fun. Oh, I love
Because it sounds
that.
fun, right? I mean, and I figure...
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
If nothing else, I'll smoke them all.
Exactly.
All 300. But yeah, and so it's just designed that if you're having a party or you're just not a great mixologist or you don't even want to buy all those things, right? How much of this do I need? How much of that do I
Right.
need? What kind of bitter? There's like so many bitters. There's
Right.
chocolate, there's
Oh, I know.
Aztec, there's orange, there's all these different brands. What do I need? Just takes the guesswork out of it. It's
This
just
is
easy
perfect
peasy.
for a guy like me because my idea of a cocktail a lot of times is I'll pour whiskey into a glass and then people are like, "That's not a cocktail," and then I put a piece of ice in it.
Still not a cocktail.
Well, thanks for bursting my bubble.
Well, honestly, this is absolutely delicious. The fact that you could make it that easily as somebody who would buy the little jar. So the bags come in the jar, right?
So they come in the jar. You can buy that, and then we've got like a little refill pack, right? You only need one jar, or some people already have mason jars at their house, right? I'm the queen of mason jars. I've got every size, wide mouth, narrow, octagon shape, twisty shape, because I just think they're great.
Well, mason jars are pretty inexpensive things overall. Like you buy
Exactly.
a case of them for like
$12, $13.
something like that.
And tell us the web address.
3 lumps of sugar, all spelt out. So THREELUMPS of sugar. Because
.com.
someone asked me
.com.
one day, how do you take your tea? And I said, with 3 lumps of sugar. And then I thought to myself, that's clever. I'm going to buy the domain name, and someday I'm going to use it. And I did.
And now you use it for this. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So 3lumpsofsugar.com, and then tell me a little more about this place you're talking about opening in the Heights.
So I'm actually moving in with a distillery. It's the perfect place because what it allows me to do then is make boozy treats legally, right? So speaking of boozy treats, I've got these.
Okay. Save those. We want to get to those.
We're going to get to
get to
these
those,
later, but
yes,
I've got
we are.
these boozy gummies, which is one of the things that...
gummies.
Yep.
Which is one of the things I'm known for, right? That's how we met. I was making boozy treats, so I make a lot of boozy treats for brands, and so it just seemed like a perfect marriage. And then what I've done is bought a whole tote of bourbon. It's not even in the bottle yet. I just bought the whole tote, and that's what I'm using to go through and create these great things, especially now with cocktails to go, right? Being legal in Texas, so you'll be able to come in, even if you decide you don't want to do this yourself, buy it as a cocktail to go. It's already ready.
This cocktail is customizable to whatever bourbon you want to put in it as well.
Exactly.
Right. if you want to use just your everyday stuff, or if you want to try
rye or
try what it would be like with something a little fancier, that it all works. I love it.
I love it with the rye because you kind of get that pepperiness with it, and it offsets the sweetness of the turbinado sugar, and so it's that kind of balance. And then we've got some that are more ginger forward because I love the taste of ginger, and so that gives up a little more amped up flavor to it.
This is delicious. I mean, it really is. It's as good an old fashioned as I've ever had.
This is really good.
Yeah. And I'm trying. What the other thing I love about this is that you could get this. You could have people over, right? And you go, I'm going to go into the kitchen and make old fashions. Okay. And then you disappear into the kitchen. You whip these, and then you don't let anybody know that you've been using the
throw the packaging away.
Throw the packaging away. Come back out with the drinks. Everybody would be like, "These are great. How did you learn to make this?" And that's when you're like, bartender secret, right?
I won't tell.
I love it. So
I have to tell you, so the freeze dried cherry on here,
it totally works.
It totally works. It's an odd thing to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and say this, and I'm trying not to mean this in any negative connotation, but it's an ugly cherry.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see this, like, when you're sitting around and someone's like, what's up with the cherry? That's a conversation starter right there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because once you know why it looks like that, it's an interesting cherry and not just an ugly cherry. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But the flavors are so on point on this, and it's fun to have that in there as well.
And I'm guessing that after several of these, that cherry may start looking pretty.
Do you eat the cherry when you're done?
I was just going to say the cherry's delicious.
I bet, because it's freeze-dried, so it just
It's like a
soaks
little
it all.
sponge, so when
flavor.
you bite it, it's going to have this big burst of flavor, almost like those little gushers, right? And it's going to be
nice.
like,
This is so working for me. I love it. Well, this is tremendous. I'm going to keep nursing this, and we're going to take a break. We'll be back with a look at some beer and a couple of. There's so much interesting stuff going on right now. I want to bring you up to speed. Plus, we've got a new cigar to watch for. One of my favorites is coming back, and I want to tell you about that. So it's Smoking and Toasting. Thank you for joining us, and we will return.
Did you use rye in this? This has kind of a
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web, and new designs available now at MyCigarShirts.com because... Cigars, yes. Ian, open that bad boy up. I think you actually started opening it earlier, so we got the little... It had already happened, right?
You're giving it away. I was trying to pass it off as if I didn't make that mistake.
That's all right.
So I was just going to get into the beer.
And that's a wonderful idea.
Although beer with lime in it, it's...
So
I'm not excited about that.
You have some apprehension about this, don't you?
I'm just not excited about it. Beer with lime. Like, I like lime on fajitas.
Yeah.
But I also don't mind drinking pecan porter with fajitas either, So
well, right. So that would work.
I don't have to have a Mexican style beer.
Well, there's definitely some lime on the nose when you take a little whiff of this. You can get that. But see, you were saying you like this. You're a California girl. You used to
I'm from
drinking.
San Jose, so I'm used to drinking what they consider cerveza with lime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
a thing.
That does not smell good to me.
Really?
No.
Now, see, I like it on the nose. I haven't tasted it
That smells
yet.
like macro brew, whatever. I'm waiting to see what you say when you're tasting it here because you're making a undefinable face.
Well, yeah, it is interesting. It does taste more like a macro brew than I might expect from Firestone Walker. But if you give it a moment, it has a little more complexity than like a Bud Light Lime.
I'll agree. It definitely has more malt backbone to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like the lime.
That's just a thing you don't
pass.
You don't go for.
Yeah, and I love 805. I love
too.
the maltiness of it.
And that to me is what really works with this. If I want a beer with lime, this is probably the best one that I've had because the maltiness that you mentioned really kind of balances out the lime and keeps it from. I don't know if you remember this, but when we did the light beer blind taste test, do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Your favorite actually wound up being, I think it was the Bud Light Lime.
Yeah, well, so you use the term favorite.
Well, I get it. I understand.
But this is like the Craptastic Festival we're talking about here, though. So, like, this was the least of all things. And the beer, the Bud Light Lime, at least had flavor. And we didn't even think it was lime. We thought it was lemon.
Yes.
Like, it didn't taste like lime. It tasted like lemon pledge, basically. But at least it had
Yes.
flavor
It
over
tasted-
a lot of other beers.
Well, and that's the reason I voted it like way towards the bottom, because to me it tasted like furniture polish.
Well, furniture polish is a flavor, and a lot of those beers didn't actually have any of that.
But what I'm saying is that this 805 does not taste like furniture polish.
No, this tastes like beer with
it tastes like beer with lime. Yeah,
But,
exactly.
Yeah, it's I don't like lime in beer. I just don't. I like lime in margaritas.
I do like lime and margaritas.
You know, I mean, it's, of course, a large part is made of lime, but
Yeah, well, but to me, even when I'm making a margarita with like a mix, and by the way, if you're making margarita with a mix, there's none better than Nina's Natural. That's the one that I use. But even if I'm making it with a mix, taking a shortcut, I still get a lime and squeeze half a lime in there, because there's nothing quite like that actual lime flavor in a margarita. I saw you shaking your head no at me,
Quick
so
story.
I love that you're a purist, and you should be with margaritas.
For me, a margarita is simply tequila, agave nectar, and lime. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
No mix, nothing else.
I'll put a little Contro in there, a little
And
orange.
salt.
I like a floater.
Yeah.
This beer would
A
be
little
great with salt.
Gramier or something like
It
that.
would be
See?
good. It would be good
Now
with salt.
you're making it worse for me. Like that's terrible. Like, who needs to put more salt in beer? If you've got to salt and lime your beer is wrong.
Well, at
Like,
least
you have messed up somewhere along the way.
at least you don't feel very strongly about it.
Can I tell you, like, super quick story? Because this is funny to me. I was, me and my wife were up at Poison Girl, which is a very bourbon-centric bar, and they have great beers and stuff like that on tap and in stock and everything else. And we were just enjoying going through the menu a little bit there. And while we're sitting there towards the end of the bar, this lady walks up. And she's asking the bartender, and she goes, "Hey, do you have Dos Equis?" I don't have that. And she asked for a few other Mexican lagers, and you can see she's getting a little frustrated and like, "Why don't you
Don't
have
have
these
Corona,
beers?"
don't
And
have Dos
she's got a little bit
Equis,
of an
yeah.
attitude, and she's like, "Well, what do you have?" And he goes, "We got Lone Star." She goes, "Okay, give me 2 of those." So he walks off, and he's picking up on her vibe too. But he's so professional. He's like, "Okay, I got this." And he goes and gets these Lone Stars in a bottle and brings them over to her and puts them down. And he turns around to walk off. And she's like, and she's tapping the top of the bottle.
Salt.
And he looks at her and he's totally confused. He's like, what can I do for you? And she's like, "Can I get salt and lime on these?" As if he's supposed to know
As
this,
if
right?
you're supposed to know that she wants salt
On a
and lime
Lone
on a
Star.
Lone Star. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So you witnessed this whole.
I'm
exchange.
sorry. I'm so glad I'm not a bartender, because I would have just I was sitting next to him. I'm trying not to laugh, and he's so professional. He's like, "Okay," and he takes them, and she turns around and starts talking. And I look over, and he's putting salt and lime. He's dressing these Lone Stars, and he brings them back. And the only thing he said, the only concession to it, he said was, "Good luck with that."
I
It was
love it.
hilarious. Salt and lime. Anyway.
I love it. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with our next segment. I got to tell you about the new cigar that is coming that I just found out about, and I want to tell you about a little bit about my trip. I was in New Mexico, and I visited a brewery whose beers we have had on this program before. So I want to tell you about
Santa
tell you
Fe?
about Santa Fe Brewing
nice.
Company. I stopped. It was fun. We'll be right back.
In the beginning.
Welcome back, my friends. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. This is the program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 239, and our guest is chef, bartender, and chemist LaShaun Arceneaux. Our program is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. It's a great site for cigar lovers, or if you've got a cigar lover in your group of friends or family, you want to buy something cool for them for a gift. The shirts start under $20, and they're very affordable, and they're very cool. Ian's wearing one now. It says, "You can't hurry hurry up and smoke a cigar. You can buy that shirt. And
Sounds
it's
like something
available
I'd say.
in a lot of different colors. It sounds very familiar, doesn't it? I like that. But thanks for supporting mycigarshirts.com because they support us, and we appreciate it. So I want to tell you, Ian, about one of my favorite limited cigars is returning.
Oh?
There's a pair of new releases from Cigars that are going to be appearing at the PCA trade show in Vegas next month. One is a Quesada 1974 that will be a celebration of a new size for that cigar. And the other, they're bringing back the Oktoberfest.
Nice.
I have always loved that
16?
cigar. Now, some years have been better than others. 16 was fantastic.
16 was the best.
And I think I want to say, was it the 17 that I was not as crazy about?
That was the one is that the one they changed the label on to the white
changed
label?
to just the white label,
Right.
and it wasn't as good. But man, when you can go back and find those blue label ones from 16,
You know we sound like wine snobs, right?
I get it. I get it. But, it just was a fact that next year's... that one year's Oktoberfest just didn't appeal to me the same way. But in general, the whole line, I mean, I love them. And Quesada makes great cigars anyway. So I am so excited that they are bringing back the Oktoberfest.
They made that super fat Perfecto, too, that I absolutely loved. Absolutely. I can't remember what they called it. They had a name for it, but it's so good.
I got my first Oktoberfest cigar at McCoy's downtown.
Yeah, I remember that.
When we did a show down there. You remember that?
Uh-huh.
It was one of the very early, like
And
show
then we
number
split
5
we split
or
one of the little barrels
Hey,
of
we
them,
did.
yeah.
It was great fun. Yeah, it was great fun. So anyway, very excited about it. It was released originally back in 2011 as a seasonal release designed to be paired with Marzen-style beers for Oktoberfest.
Wow.
Yeah. So the cigar's coming back. It's got a new blend. It's a Mexican San Andres wrapper paired with Dominican binder and fillers. And Manuel Quesada of Quesada Cigars says the change blend is a result of customer feedback. This new one will be medium-bodied. So very excited.
Nice. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. 3 sizes: Das Boot, which is a torpedo, Uber, which is 6x65, and the Bavarian, which is 5.5 by 52. All will ship in boxes of 10. So very excited. I will be looking for that, and I will definitely be purchasing.
Yeah, and that's going to be coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, if you want to go in halvesies on that with me, I would.
I'm already in. Sign me up.
More than happy to do that. So that's exciting. We are thrilled to have LaShaun Arceneaux with us today. LaShaun is a chef, bartender, and chemist. And are you like really a chemist, or are you like an amateur chemist, or
I am. So there's
chemist?
actually a food chemist, right?
Right,
There's a person
right.
that looks at what makes food taste the way that it tastes, what pairs well together, and that is what I do.
That is so
Nice.
interesting. How did you get started doing
She's
that?
sciencing this shit.
I know.
I think growing up, I always cooked with my grandmother and my mom, and I was always interested in food, right? And so, like most people, I was a bartender in college. And then one day I was like, you know what? I really look at cocktails like I look at food, right? I always think to myself, orange goes good with what? What
Right.
goes good with something else food related? And I find that it transfers over to cocktails because cocktails just liquid food.
Do you have some favorite? Now you pair cigars with cocktails a lot.
I do.
Do you have some favorite pairings that like are absolute go-tos?
Chocolate, right? So dark chocolates are really, really good with cigars. Cherry is another one. Orange, because it kind of lightens things up. And you know what? I really like, one of the things that I always do is I always add salt water to all my cocktails. And I know it sounds weird.
Really?
And it's a chemistry thing. When you hear the phrase, it makes your mouth water, it has to deal with salt because salt
Right.
makes your mouth water and
Yeah.
it carries the flavor all over your mouth, across all your taste buds. So a lot of times I'll have something that's got a little bit of salinity into it. But then once you smoke that cigar, it actually takes that flavor. You'll notice the difference immediately. Try it. It'll
Okay.
take the flavor of that cigar in your whole mouth. And it's amazing. All of a sudden, you taste things that you never tasted before.
Well, and that salt brings out flavor.
Right.
Is that the
Well-
reason why? Because chemically, it's
Right.
changing your taste buds to a degree.
It's waking them
Making
all
them more
up, and then it's
receptive.
making them more receptive, and then it's carrying it over. When you
Right,
eat something, if you just taste with the front of your mouth, you taste something different than just
Than
like
you do back in the palate,
back
yeah.
of your palate, right? But when you have salt, what it does is it makes your mouth water, and then that liquid carries all over your mouth at the same time.
That's a very sciencey
Got my mouth water
play. Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not a big fan of the rodeo, but one of the things that I did discover at the rodeo, and I've done this ever since, is the perfect way to make corn on the cob. And what you do is you get a big pot of water and you put a ton. I'm gonna go ahead and describe it as a shit ton of salt into it, right?
Yep.
And you can bring it to a boil if you want, but you put the corn in it and you let the corn soak in that salty water for as long as you can stand it. Really,
You can pour it in a cooler. That's what we do. We call it cooler corn.
Cooler corn. I like
So
it.
you put it in the cooler because it's insulated. It keeps it hot.
Right.
And then it's sitting in that salt brine, right? That's
It's
what we
just
brine
steaming.
things.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
brine chicken and other things like that because the salt helps it out.
So then when you
cooler
take that corn out and roast it, it is salty
Throw it on
and
the grill.
delicious. Oh, it's
and
wonderful.
then put some salted butter on it. Don't use regular butter.
Right,
Use
you gotta use
salted.
salted
Even if
butter.
you use like
Yep.
European butter or like Kerrygold, something that's really
Yeah.
salty.
I do.
So
So
good.
I don't go through all that a lot of times when I'm grilling because I grill often. Like I go through alarming amounts of charcoal at my house. But one of the things that I do with corn is I'll shuck it and get all the silk off of it, and then I wrap it in tin foil. But in the tin foil, I have garlic, minced garlic and butter and some herbs and salt and everything. And then as I'm lighting the fire, I stick it down in there, and it starts from that point. And it'll just sit there until everything else is done. Then I pull that off, and it just comes out amazing.
It's so good. It caramelizes it, right? And so it's so good. And I've got you beat. I grill all the time. I have a 55-gallon drum full of charcoal out in the backyard.
See, I do that. And especially when Home Depot has it on sale, I'll go buy, 80,
End of
100
the
pounds
season.
of it.
So I will, I
know
will
what I'm
tell
talking
you, I've had living in the building where I live. You can't have a charcoal grill on your, on your patio or on your balcony. But the building has some really nice gas grills down at the pool. You can go to. So I've completely handed the grilling chores over to my wife because I will only cook if danger is involved. So I like open flame, and like my wife is great with the grills with the gas grills, but to me I'm like you almost might as well be inside. Like this is
Grilling is always
grill.
better than not
Yeah.
grilling, and
But
that doesn't matter if it's.
But she manages to do it great. But I will tell you, I love grilling over charcoal,
Yeah,
and
charcoal is the thing.
I go and buy those bags of charcoaled wood. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not briquettes. I love the charcoaled wood, and it just
I blend mine.
smells so
That's
good.
how geeky
Oh,
I
you
am.
blend? I love this. No, I love this.
So Kingsford charcoal.
yeah.
And there's a couple. B&B makes good charcoal. There's a couple brands that make really good charcoal.
Right.
Cheap charcoal sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a couple brands that make really good charcoal. It burns hot and burns long. And so I'll buy those, and then I'll mix in some of the wood chunks and stuff like that to add flavor to it. So I just kind of blend it together to get that.
And it's funny. I have something for y'all that you're going to see. It's applewood smoked salt, and it's in your giddy bag. And so I do that same thing, but I use a smoking box, and I take the applewood chips and smoke them in the box, and it's cold smoke, so there's no actual heat to it. There's no charcoal.
Right.
You really are a scientist.
Yeah, and it takes about 24 hours.
I
And
love
yeah,
it.
So
I absolutely love it. By the way, I wanted to tell you, Ian, while I was out last week and you and Josh were doing the show.
Joel.
Joel, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Josh. Anyway, when you guys were doing the show, I was in New Mexico. And we went up there for my wife to see one of her good friends that she hasn't seen in a while. And she lives in the Santa Fe area. So we flew into Albuquerque. I'm looking around, seeing if I can see the Breaking Bad house. That's my whole. That was my whole connection to Albuquerque. It was like, oh, this is where Breaking Bad was. But didn't see that. But we're tooling up the highway towards Santa Fe, and I see a sign that says the next exit is the Santa Fe Brewing Company, and I'm like, oh, we've had their beers. I was like, honey, how do you feel about a beer break? And she's like, let's do it. So we went in, and I totally should have done a segment there, but I'd been flying and driving, and I just didn't. I was kind of like a little road weary, but we stopped and had some of their beer fresh from the tap. My wife got a lager, which was very good, and I had something called F Hazy or Fazy, which was a hazy IPA that I had not seen. It may be available here. I'll look for it. But wow, it was just absolutely terrific. And as you know, there's really no time that beer is better than when it's out of the tap. At the brewery.
Yeah, fresh from the tap.
It's just so fresh and so delicious. And anyway, it was a wonderful experience. Loved the place. The only thing that bummed me out is I wanted to eat, and they their kitchen didn't open until a little later.
Well,
were
we
there
talked a little
mid-afternoon.
bit about it last week because last week's show was all about aged beers.
Right.
So we had one that was 2008. By the way.
Wow.
That's a lot of age for a beer.
And actually, it was really good. It was the Sisyphus. It was a barley wine, so it aged well. Some beers can age well, but fresh beer is amazing.
Do not ever try to age your IPA, friends. It does not
Not
work.
unless it's a double or bigger.
Yeah, and even then, it's generally better when it's fresh. But anyway, hats off to the Santa Fe Brewing Company. Great beers, cool place. I bought a pint glass and brought it home and stuck it in the freezer. I'm a fan. Speaking of IPAs, we have a double here that is double dry hopped from Moore Brewing Company. They are from Huntley, Illinois. It's called that was nice. Dabbling in Fun double IPA, and Ian's going to pour a little of that for us just here shortly, and we'll try this bad boy out. I get a lot of different IPAs, and usually if I'm bringing one on the show like this, I will have tried one before, but I have not tried this. So this will be a surprise for me, but I like what it's all about. I have a tendency to really like double dry hopped IPAs. They have a tendency to just be really rich in flavor.
This basically just looks like orange juice, by
I was
the
going
way.
to say the color's amazing,
Kind
right?
of smells like orange juice. It really does. It looks like some of that orange juice that they've taken the pulp out
It
of,
smells a lot like orange juice, yes.
which I can't imagine why anyone would ever do. But
Oh, that's good. That's good.
that is good.
Almost like a summer shandy or something.
What kind of
It's-
hops are they using in this
It's
one? Ian?
this is brighter than I was expecting from a double IPA. Sometimes they can be a little
Usually,
more
actually,
on the
when they
darker
put it
flavors.
Usually when they put it in a can kind of wrapped in black, you're expecting that deep dankness, and that's not what this is at all. This is actually lighter and refreshing.
Sabro, Chinook, and Vic Secret hops. It's,
Interesting.
It's really interesting because the hop flavor is very juicy and it's a very friendly hop flavor.
So a lot of times when you get a orange juicy or grapefruit juicy IPA, they've used Citra, but apparently they did not use Citra in this. So it's interesting they arrived at this much of a citrus flavor without using Citra hops.
Well, not only that, but it's got this citrus bite at the back of the palate, and then it's followed up by a little sweetness that follows. It's almost like the hops aftertaste follows the malt
sweetness,
aftertaste follows the hop aftertaste.
And what that
Interesting.
does is it keeps it from having that pine cone bitter thing.
Yeah,
happening on
there's
your palate
there's
at the
none of
end.
that. This is
Yeah.
this is really nice. This is well made.
Very, very good. Our friends at Huntley, Illinois, Moore Brewing Company.
So I don't know if people are just making better and more balanced IPAs, or maybe we're picking the right ones, or maybe you've just beat me down with IPAs enough to where I'm starting to
I'm
enjoy
trying,
them.
my friend. I'm trying.
But I have been enjoying actually the last bunch of IPAs that we've had on here.
Well, one
that
of
Elvis juice was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I've it's another one of those instances of smoking a toast and directly influencing sales, because I went immediately to Specs and bought a 6-pack of that after we had it on the show. It was just fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Just
absolutely.
fantastic. Well, I agree with you. I think this is wonderfully balanced. Has a great sort of vibe and feel to the mouthfeel. It's not a super thick mouthfeel. It's more, you could almost drink this as a summer by the pool beer, except it is a double. So
Try
be
your old
careful.
fashioned after it.
Oh, after that, okay.
It's almost like a Boilermaker, right?
Well, yeah, a little bit, but the old fashioned becomes this beautiful cinnamon sweet,
Ooh, cinnamon. Big time.
delicious thing.
Cinnamon. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
What's not
It's
to like?
it tastes like, I know it's called an old fashioned, but it tastes like one of those old fashioned treats that just it's like basically just sugar
The
with
candy
some
that your
flavors in
grandma
it.
had?
Yeah, hard candies,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that your grandma had. Yeah.
That's really, really interesting.
Totally. Well, this is a nice combo. And you know what? That's interesting to me because as much as I love IPAs, they strike me as the beer style that's almost least likely to pair with something else, whether it's a cigar or a spirit or a cocktail. Sometimes IPAs just kind of stand on their own and say, drink me and only me for right now,
You say that, however, IPAs and rye whiskey,
Yes, you're right about that. There's
Like,
something about the spice of the rye.
those
And-
two things.
And because this old fashioned has a little bit of spiciness to
Yeah.
it, that might be why these pair up so well.
Yeah.
It's good
that
stuff.
kind of dark cinnamony kind of
It's
spice.
really good
yeah,
stuff.
it's really.
LaShaun,
nice, yeah.
this is interesting to me. I don't know.
This is a wickless candle.
It's okay. Well, I was glad you said that earlier because if you left the room, I was going to get a spoon and try the pudding because it looked like a delicious pudding. But I love the way that smells.
So let me preface this real quick. My nose is a little sensitive to cheap scents. Like I can't walk if there's a Bath and Body Works in the mall. I have to be on the other side of the aisle. I can't even if I get close to it, my eyes will water and I'll be tasting it and all that.
So you're saying if I put on Drakkar Noir and come in to do the show,
man,
that I would drive you out of the
high
room?
school. It's terrible stuff.
It's the worst.
Terrible
the only thing worse. Jovan Musk for Men. Do you
I
remember that?
don't know that one.
Oh my God!
He's too young to know.
It's like when I was in school, it was the cologne that you wore in junior high school.
We gave it to my dad every year for Father's Day when I was a kid.
That's hilarious. It makes Drakkar seem really sophisticated.
And there's a lot of candles. Like even in the even in the grocery store, if I go through the candle aisle or sometimes the cleaning aisle, some of those scents they make my eyes all itchy and watery, and it's terrible. So I'm very, very particular when it comes to candles and things like that. That smells very good. Like that is right in my nose and no problems.
So it's a wickless candle. What does that mean?
So it's got a warming plate that it goes on, and what it will do, or you could even, if you've been cooking or baking, put it on your stove. It's going to liquefy, throw off its scent, and then harden back. So no soot, no open flame,
no burn.
No burn. And I started doing these a long time ago when I had a little one because the soot that candles produce actually irritated her. And then this was an homage to my dad. So I started smoking cigars because my dad always smoked cigars, and even when I didn't smoke, I love the smell of the humidor. So when he would go, I'd go, I want to go with you. And even now, if I go into a Specs, even if I'm not buying anything, I'll go into the humidor and just stand there and close my eyes and just inhale it. That smell of the teak wood and mahogany and tobacco and caramel and all those things together. Wonderful. And that's what this smells like to me.
You're right. The first thing I do when I walk into the humidor at Casa de Monte Cristo or Stogie's or at Allen's place is take in that.
It smells so
that
good.
breath. It's so good.
Yeah.
I even do that actually when I open my humidors at home.
Oh, yeah.
I'll open the lid and just it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So this definitely gives that off, and I love that. So you could take this and just put it on your stove if your stove
stove's
is warm.
hot. Yep.
Yeah, and I love that. Well, I've always thought, there are so many people who don't smoke cigars or pipes, but who actually do enjoy the room note, and this would be perfect actually for someone like that as well. So, that's just wonderful. Are these available on your website as well?
They are, and they're available at our shop.
Very
and
good.
So,
very good.
And you actually have actual tobacco in there.
There is, and so one of the things we've been doing is to kind of try and get a little more tobacco scent in there, right? Because everything's going to be all natural. So what we do is at different cigar shops or lounges that I frequent, they'll save. Everyone's got that case of cigars they get in that's been broken in shipping, and then the cigars go bad, or even from members of lounges, right? People buy the cigars, they don't know how to really keep them, and then their moisture's off, and they go, what do I do with these? And so I've got a little bucket, different places where they can just throw in their bad cigars that are unsmoked, right? But just are cracked, like you were saying earlier. You had one that was cracked. Some of them are just really damaged, and they just throw them in there, and I just pick them up periodically and actually steep that in the wax, and it's an all-natural soy wax, and I just throw that in there, and I just walk away from it, and what
got you started doing that? You just loving the humidor smell so much?
I've always done candles because I like the smells that I like. I'm the same as you. I don't like that super frou-frou stuff. I don't want to smell I don't want to smell like freesia.
My cheap scents are terrible.
So I got a gift one time from my stepmom, and she sent this. It was a very expensive blueberry candle, right? And it was one of those things that you could smell it before you opened the package.
Oh, yeah.
And then I opened up the package, and I know obviously she meant well. I'm sure she, ordered it online and sent it to my house. And it was one of those things where the minute I opened it up, I was like, I can't be around this. It was just, and so I remember they were coming for a visit like in a month or two, and I thought, okay, I can't just throw this away.
You'll bring it out for the visit.
Right, I'll bring it out for the visit. So I took it into the downstairs of my house at the time. I put it in a box. I put that box in another box, and I put the box underneath several other boxes. And I swear you could still smell it when you walked into that downstairs area. It was just, I couldn't believe how pungent and strong that
Some of them
smell
can
was.
be like that.
But it wasn't pleasant. This, though, is so mellow and just calming.
Yeah, that's
and
what I
awesome.
wanted. That feeling of being in the humidor, that great smell that almost makes you want to close your eyes and just go.
LaShaun has perfected cigar aromatherapy. It's awesome. It's awesome. You gotta trademark that, cigar aromatherapy.
That makes you think. You remember
heard
that
it here
commercial where the CEOs and the people are all sitting around the board table and trying to come up with great ways to do to market their rental cars, and they're like aromatherapy candles.
Yeah.
And they're showing the people in the back seat who are all relaxed and sleeping, and the passenger seat relaxed and sleeping, and then the driver's seat relaxed and sleeping, and they're going off road. That's pretty funny.
It's good stuff. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, it's the segment I probably have missed the most from being gone. That's right, my friends. Drinking News returns. And we will be right back with it on Smoking and Toasting. Plus, we got more beer to taste, too. Release the Kraken. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 239. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And today we're about some really lovely tasting and smelling designs and items from three
lumps of sugar.
of sugar.com. And spell it all out, right?
Yep.
This cherry has been dissolving, by the way.
It's just wonderful.
There's like pieces of it missing because it's dissolved completely in. But I'm about to eat the cherry.
Do it.
We're going to
Okay,
see what happens.
let's do that. That'll be a perfect prelude to Drinking News.
It's boozy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
It's a boozy little sponge.
Yeah.
Little flavor explosion
Wow.
there. Yeah?
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I could eat a bowl of those.
Generally speaking, anything you soak in an old fashioned is probably going to wind up tasting pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah, it's kind of.
But
a
that
thing.
has a different consistency. You know how cherries generally pop. This has kind of a spongy thing going on. But man, when you bite into it, it is boozy flavor.
It releases the things the sponge has been holding,
Yes.
right? Yeah, which in this case is old fashioned. So that's not a bad thing. All right, my friends, the time has come for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news.
I love the half-hearted laugh. That was so
Drinking
good.
news.
Cheers, y'all. It was a real laugh.
That was perfect.
But it wasn't a guffaw.
We need to. That's one
Wasn't
of
a
those that we
cackle.
need to have. Is like that's one of those we need to have in one of our promo moments.
Yeah, for sure. Well, today's Drinking News segment takes us away for a moment from the tales of the Florida man and from stupid criminals from everywhere, and focuses instead on how different cultures may look at things just a bit differently than we do here in the United States. You probably already know that most countries in Europe, for example, are not nearly as hung up on nudity as we are here in the States. And it's not unusual to see maybe a topless woman in a commercial or a show on broadcast television when you're in Europe. Radio in most European
Wasn't
countries.
there like topless news somewhere for a while?
Oh yeah, but that was you had to pay an extra subscription to get that. I think radio in most European countries plays the unedited version of songs. I'll never forget visiting Iceland and driving down the road and just hearing the unedited songs on the radio and thinking, "This is awesome!" Like this is just like instead of because some of the edits are ridiculous. And some of the rap songs, I can't even tell what they're
I was
about. There's so
listening
many
to Rock
edits.
101,
Yeah.
KLOL here in Houston. I was listening to it when they debuted that Rage Against the Machine song.
Oh, yes. You're talking about.
I won't do it.
F you, I won't do what you told me. Yeah.
And dude, they missed the mark on that so hard, or maybe they did it on purpose. I don't know, but it was
that's
hilarious. to
That's
listen to
killing
as a
in the name
teenager.
of.
Yeah, killing in the name of, yes.
Yeah. Or Killing in the Name, I think, is actually just the title. But yeah, that's got a repeated chant of F
Oh,
you,
and
I
it just
won't
kept
do what you
going.
tell me.
And you could hear them trying to
Yeah, right. Trying to use the cough button. Yeah, it didn't work. Well, in any case, society seems to have been able in Europe to keep from crumbling and fading away, despite the fact that they've got, a little looser attitude towards nudity and other things. But a recent radio report on Radio 4 in Denmark illustrates this. A 26-year-old radio reporter named Louise Fletcher was assigned to do a report on a swingers club near Copenhagen. The segment focused on the reopening of a club called Swingland after the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. And Fisher decided to dive deep into the story to get the full scoop by having sex with a man she interviewed during the segment. Fisher can reportedly be heard moaning during the report, and there are fully audible sounds of bodies slapping together. At one point, Fisher asked the man she's having sex with if he can tell her what she's seeing, and he replies, "A delicious woman." Fisher said that she doesn't have a boyfriend, which definitely made that easier. She also told the Daily Mail that her mother just thinks it's funny and laughs, and that her father thought it was really cool. Okay, so now you know you're in Europe, right? Because here the father would have been like
mortified.
Yeah, and headed for the garage where he keeps his shotgun. A tweet from Radio 4 actually linked to the segment and included the text, "Warning, it got hot and wet for both our reporter and the guests." Radio 4's head of news said the station actually approved of the move. "I feel like I just think it's cool when the reporters try to make stories in a different way," she said. I'll give you guys a moment to go and try and find the audio for yourselves. And that is your drinking news.
Drinking news.
You can find the audio.
That was time for drinking news. I'm a little speechless after that. Drinking news. Drinking news. That was time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. But seriously, can you imagine if that had happened here? There would be so many apologies and retractions and firings, and they're just like, yeah, we thought it was cool. She really dove deep on the story, so to speak.
But
Yeah, but that's just the difference. So I thought today's drinking news could illustrate that.
That's
rather
funny.
beautifully. All right, Ian. Speaking of diving deep, I'm in the mood for some Imperial Stout. What do you say?
I'm down.
You
This
should
is
show
called
off this
Scent.
bottle before you start to take the wax off of it there.
Art by Massive Face. So apparently there's an artist called Massive Face. This is looks like a space uniform he's wearing, maybe, or something. I don't know exactly what's going on there. It's cool art. Let's get up there.
Oh my goodness! I just bit the cherry.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
something, isn't it?
Wow, that is wonderful. I'm just going to enjoy this while you pour the beer.
I'll do that. Hold on. Oh,
The wax can
The
make
wax.
it difficult. Yes,
there we go.
I give you the hard jobs. So
The wax. Why does wax kick my butt all the time?
remember we had that one a few shows ago where you couldn't get the
Okay,
wax
so the
off
wax
at all.
on there was like so thick it was
Yeah.
crazy. Apparently, just wax defeats me. I don't know.
I think what I want to do is
Oh,
just
I love that already.
get
It's
a
pretty.
Look
Yeah.
how dark and amazing that is.
Oh, yeah. So this is an Imperial Stout from our friends at Anchorage Brewing. And these guys, I mean, these are very creative brewers at Anchorage. They do a ton of IPAs, limited releases, things that... They're the ones that always have the most interesting artwork on their cans. It looks like...
Oh, that smells so good.
Smells like coffee.
Artwork on their cans looks like tattoos so often.
Yeah, this would make an amazing tattoo. This is fermented and aged in Missouri oak, finished on hazelnuts, Madagascar vanilla beans,
Oh, and
raw
I'm getting
coconut,
all of
and
that on the
milk
nose.
sugar. I'm
Oh.
so proud of you, by the way.
Yeah?
After you take a sip, I'll tell you what this comes in at, percentage-wise, because I think you'll be amazed.
Ooh. Well, I got to tell you, it doesn't strike me as overly boozy. I'm not saying it's not
It's boozy.
It's boozy, but I'm not going, holy cow.
It's 15%.
Oh, Oh, Ian, that's like
That
right
is
in
a
your wheelhouse.
big beer,
That's
yes.
a big
I
beer.
love that.
And let me tell you, it's delicious. It's got a
Hazelnut coffee flavor.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Oh, you get the almost the shell of the hazelnut,
Yes.
kind of astringency in there.
And it's just fantastic. There's an almost like powdered sugar vibe underneath all of it, which makes you think of like a really awesome milkshake.
This you would have to smoke like a Series R to even keep up with this beer. Like this would bury almost any
maybe
cigar you're smoking.
Maybe an AJ New World or something.
Yeah,
just
it
super,
has to
super
be
big.
like
yeah,
Something really robust.
A diesel.
Yeah, diesel.
It's like hazelnut
But I would
vanilla.
love to try that.
Yeah,
Ian,
it is. This is, and it's got a cool kind of bitterness to the
Yes.
to the end. It's
almost like a bitter chocolate that kind of lingers on the
yeah,
palate.
but there's a little brightness to the end of the flavor and you can tell it's a hops. You can tell that it's that hoppy bitterness in there, and it's interesting because I don't usually taste that in a stout. So
Right.
it has kind of a floral touch to the finish
It
on
does.
this that I'm not
It
used
does.
to.
And
Floral and kind of a pine cone kind of way, but not in a bad way.
And the retrohale from this is wonderful. If you just do a little, like a cigar retrohale with it.
Oh man, the retrohale is all chocolate. There's a little cinnamon kind of flavor going on. in
Yes, yes. Oh,
there.
there's a whole lot going on in this, and that makes sense.
It leaves that malt flavor in your mouth, like if you've ever had a traditional malt and you get that one little ball of powdered malt.
Oh,
that
yes,
didn't,
yes.
That didn't mix in and
Like
it goes
in a-
poof in your
yes,
mouth.
yeah.
It leaves that kind of
Which I always
that
loved. by the way.
dry but sweet maltiness.
Oh man, that is just.
How do you
delicious.
feel about this?
I like it a lot. You know, it's so funny. I thought of Whoppers immediately.
Yeah, that malt
totally.
is
Yeah.
huge.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's got
Almost
that
a-
milk sugars in there.
And then vanilla almost makes it seem like, you know, a vanilla malt, right? When you
Yeah.
get something with malt powder, not a shake, but
right.
a malt.
Yeah, a malt. Yeah, and shakes are so much more common than malts now.
Right.
But when you can get a real
An
malt,
actual malt.
oh, it's something to celebrate.
Yeah.
And so is this beer, by the way.
This is
Sent by Liars.
Outstanding.
It
Sent
really
by
is.
Liars.
Really is from
By-
Anchorage Brewing Company. I got to tell you, these people.
Did you get this local?
I did not, but I
Darn
think you
it.
may be. I think you may be able to because I've seen some Anchorage products here
Oh
locally.
yeah. So some of the stuff you can get local. I'm gonna have to look for this.
It is easy to confuse Anchorage and Alaskan. Alaskan makes some very good beers as well, but Anchorage and Alaskan are different. I take it you're looking at the comments.
Bruce Stark mentions he's going to have to buy some more shirts from mycigarshirts.com. So Smoking and Toasting can afford another camera to put Mr. Twirlygig on it.
You know, so we have this really inexpensive. I'll just say it. We have this really cheap little device that you can put something. It twirls around, and we put when we don't have a guest. Because we only have
We
so
have an
many
extra
cameras.
camera.
And we have an extra camera. So we put a camera on Mr. Twirlygig, and Mr. Twirlygig
Is it a
spins
Lazy
around.
Susan?
Yeah, it's like a Lazy Susan. And we put like the bottle of whiskey or beer or whatever on it. What has amazed me, though,
It's the popularity.
is the popularity of Mr. Twirlygig. He's like people. That's what we call him, is Mr. Twirlygig, and people like ask for him in the show notes and comments. It's amazed me actually how popular.
Well, and then Mr.
is.
Twirlygig, well, he passed.
Right, and now we have Son of
We have Son
Twirlygig.
of Twirlygig.
Yeah, we had to replace him. Ian took him home because he was not working properly, and I think you said when you put him on your workbench, he exploded.
He did not survive surgery.
So we had to get Son of Twirlygig to come and take
Son
his
of
place.
Twirlygig came in and stepped
Well,
into
all right,
Twirlygig's shoes.
So here's my promise to you. On a show upcoming very soon, it'll be Ian and myself and our special guest, Mr. Twirlygig.
Mr. Twirlygig
Yeah.
Jr.
Yeah.
Look how sticky this beer is. It's just sticking to this cup. Like,
You know
It's
what,
got legs.
what's interesting though is as sticky as it is, it doesn't come across. You know how some of these Imperial stouts come across very like syrupy, like you want to pour them over pancakes. This is different. This is more like a a malt or a shake.
This is more like poured over ice cream.
Yes,
I was just going to say, I
exactly.
think I could reduce this into a syrup and swirl it into ice cream, and it would be delicious.
No, it'd be amazing.
Delicious.
I'm drinking more of this because yum.
Yeah, because yay.
Wow.
Well, that's really spectacular.
This is
Really
going to go on one of my favorite stouts we've had. Mm-hmm. This is like something actually special. So
And we've had
for
some
real,
really good
sent by
ones, so,
liars, find it. This is
it's
outstanding.
It's absolutely worth it. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back for our final segment, and I'm going to just maybe pass my cup over for a little more.
Oh, I accidentally tipped this bottle by accident into your
all
cup.
right. All right, so we'll take a break, and we'll be right back to wrap up the show. It's Smoking and Toasting.
Is it already last segment? This is going
I know. I was like, that was fast.
I know.
This is delicious.
Yes, so good.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza that is all about fine cigars, craft beers, and great spirits. We are so glad to have you guys here with us for show number, what is this, 239? We're literally
239. I forgot to
halfway
announce
300.
what the show we were having last week. I realized that afterwards.
You were 238 last week, right? Yeah.
I didn't
That would
announce
make
it.
sense.
I just want to point out a couple comments. Bruce Stark says, I like LaShaun. She keeps talking ice cream. And Wiki Bryan comes up with, great, cirrhosis and diabetes.
Diabetes.
Love it, love it. I want to brag on our city a little bit here. We try to, even though we live here and we, drink here and buy cigars here and smoke here, we try not to make the show too Houston centric because we have listeners and viewers from all over the world.
Which is difficult because Houston is awesome.
Well, it is awesome, and I want to brag on us a little bit here. An article just came out in the Community Impact newspaper that the headline, and I just love this, Greater Houston area's craft brewery count has grown 344% since 2013.
Wow.
Think about that. 344%. Now, Houston is already home to Texas' oldest craft brewery,
St. Arnold.
which is St. Arnold.
Fantastic.
And they continue to make fantastic beers like all the time. But now it's home since 2013. 55 new breweries have opened in the region, and another 9 are in the planning
and there's
stages.
one that we need to visit. Everything I've tried from this brewery
Yeah.
has been amazing. Have you had any Klaus Brewing?
As a matter of fact,
Everything from Klaus has
okay.
been so good.
So here's the deal. We're talking to Klaus about being on the show. They've invited us to come out. We've invited them to the studio. We haven't figured it all out so far, but we will be featuring Klaus Brewing on the show in a very,
you know how that makes me feel?
very, very. I had a feeling. I think I know you well enough to know that that's the way it would go. Just a few craft beer breweries that opened recently or plan to open soon in the greater Houston area. Paradigm Brewing Company broke ground in February at Persimmon Street in Tomball. They plan to open in the fourth quarter of this year. They'll have space for a restaurant, packaging, and distribution. Fass Brewing, Fass, a new brewery and tap room, will open in the late summer inside the historic Gentry building on Main Street in Conroe. Senate Avenue Brewing Company opened last year on Dillard Drive in Jersey Village.
That's
and
Senate Avenue on Dillard Drive.
It was it was founded by former Jersey Village Mayor Andrew Mitchum. It features a variety of craft beer on tap, patio games, the big green space for children, a full kitchen. And Texas Leaguer Brewing opened its doors in Missouri City in September of 2017. It is baseball themed and operated by Nathan and Elise Reese. They feature a new tap beer every Friday. I love this.
Yeah.
I just love when they come up with new stuff like that, and that really is the future of craft
and
brewing.
that's all new stuff. There's so many staples in town that are so good. Eighth Wonder, Eureka Heights.
Yes.
There's one right by Eighth Wonder that we've had on the show, and I'm blanking on it. The NASA guys.
Yes.
I'm totally blank. I've been there a couple times, and they're so good.
Yeah, and all their stuff is space themed. It's great.
Yeah, there's Ingenious just on the north side. It's unbelievable.
Wonderful. They have some of the best IPAs I've ever had. And you know what? Spindle Tap.
Spindle Tap's IPAs are the bomb.
They are
the
wonderful with IPAs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's so much great stuff going on in this city. And, people have a tendency when they think Texas and anything artistic or crafty, they have a tendency to zero in on Austin. And I understand why. I went to school in Austin. Like it's a very cool and hip town.
Austin doesn't have as many breweries or restaurants as we have.
I'll take Houston right now. This
True
place
anomaly.
True anomaly.
Thank you.
We had them on the
Googled
show.
You've been there
their
before.
Beers are so
Oh
good.
no, it's great.
Their beers are so good. I mean, they really are super creative.
Thank you for that.
And it's wonderful. So anyway, if you are looking as people begin to travel again,
Under the Radar Brewing,
Yes.
which is right off Alameda, and I hate to let that go because, man, I love going there because it's never super busy, and I can sit out there there's always space, and I can have a cigar.
there's Back Pew.
There's
There's Southern Star and Conroe.
Southern Star Stout.
Oh man,
their Buried Hatchet Stout
it's one of
is
the best
legendary.
in the world. Yeah,
it's
one
amazing.
of the best in the world. And so, anyway, there's so much great stuff going on in this town from a craft brewing standpoint. So we're happy to salute it and celebrate the growth. And LaShaun Arceneaux, the chef, bartender, and chemist who has visited us today. What did you just do? Did
Are
just
you
pour a little
trying
of
to
that
get your
into,
cherry up in there?
Yeah, so I just decided to add some of this great beer to the last of my old fashioned because I'm thinking that hazelnut and chocolate and cinnamon will all play together. I'm going to tell you.
I love the way she thinks. We got to hang out with you. Can we just follow you around and
It's like
hang
a
out with you?
chocolate covered hazelnut cherry kind of thing. I don't know. It's
nice.
What's not to like? Seriously, we just want to hang out with you when you go drinking.
good. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Brian put Holler, Astro, Brash, Walking Stick, Great Heights.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Greater Heights.
So
yeah.
much.
Oh man,
So
there's
much great
so
stuff.
many great breweries out there.
So many breweries.
Platypus.
So little time. I love Platypus. They have a seasonal
Buffalo
IPA that I just
Bayou.
tried. Oh my God,
No
Buffalo
label.
Bayou.
I mean, I just
Yeah.
now that
Yeah.
I've started.
I know.
There's so
There's
and it's
so much good
hard.
stuff.
Man, that 1836 from Buffalo Bayou.
Yeah.
is brilliant.
And that's the copper ale, right?
Yes, absolutely brilliant.
Now that has the most wonderful chocolatiness to it. It is wonderful with cigars, the 1836.
The 1836 is such, and they call it a copper ale. It's so good.
Wonderful.
Very
It makes me
malt
want to.
forward.
It makes me want to just go out bar hopping, and I'm so excited that is a thing that it is now possible to do again.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. I mean, COVID was great for drinking at home, but I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to stuff bartenders' tip jars full of
the
money
industry needs it.
to try to help them.
Yeah.
You know, from going through some lean times here. And one of the things that happened as a lot of people got laid off during the pandemic is that there's a shortage of certain workers. Like, for example, the airlines, they have a shortage of pilots now because they allowed a lot of pilots to take like early retirement and things like that as they were trying to cut costs during the pandemic. I'm wondering, is there a shortage of bartenders? God, I hope not. Because the bartender is one of the most important fixtures of our modern society as far as I'm concerned.
Man, I would step up and be a bartender, but I'd have to be like at a whiskey-only bar. What do you want? A whiskey? I gotcha.
Yeah.
Whiskey neat.
You can serve some rum. I can see you serving some rum.
Yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can, and I make a pretty mean martini too.
Yeah, but Ian, when somebody says I want a Long Island iced tea, what do you do?
Good luck. Go over to the Marquee too, because that's where you get the Long Island. You've had that.
LaShaun, tell us one more time where people can get your amazing stuff, because it really is so good. I mean, that's one of the best.
That's so fun. I love the
had.
idea about the camping thing, because this is dry.
Yeah.
All you have to have is a bottle of whiskey. This is dry. You could probably stuff just in this little jar. You could probably stuff 2, 3 maybe in there.
And let's just face it,
Yeah.
I don't go camping without a good bedroll, a quality knife, and a bottle of bourbon.
You could have stopped at You Don't Go Camping. I know how you are.
Yeah,
Your idea of camping is a cheap hotel, and then you're unhappy about it.
My idea of camping is no room service after midnight. That's my idea of camping. But
I'm with you.
But yeah, but I get it. But I'm just saying, if you're headed to the river, if you're doing any of that stuff, you got to have the right accoutrement, and a bottle of bourbon is one of those things.
So this is awesome.
And there's 8 ounces in there, so really, even if you're going to do a 2-ounce pour,
Yeah.
And you said you could reuse that, and it still turns out pretty good.
yeah.
So you could get 2 drinks out of that one.
So about 16 ounces. So
And you share
for 2
one
people.
between the 3 of us on that.
4 of us. I got Adam in too.
Oof.
All right. So
Adam, I forget about you. Sorry, buddy.
yeah, no, I don't forget about him. We try to pass him drinks as often as possible so he doesn't ask for a raise. Yeah, we don't want to get stuck with Bobby again.
Keep him drunk.
Listen, these things you're doing are so exceptional. So 3 lumps of sugar.
3 lumps
Yep.
of sugar.com.
All spelled out, right?
All spelled out, and follow us on Instagram.
And you guys can find them anywhere. You'll ship to anywhere, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much, LaShaun, for being on the show today. This was great fun. And as we close out, we want to try your boozy gummies here.
Yeah.
These. Oh, so you just pulled one apart and it kind of stuck a
haven't
little
tried
bit.
these yet. The gummy.
This is going to be. We're going to do this over the closing credits here. Is
Oh,
trying
it's
this.
so gummy. The gummy.
Yeah, this is. It's boozy and gummy.
Oh,
It's
a bourbon gummy.
Old fashioned.
Oh, so good. Oh, there's the orange.
Little cherry.
Well, my
Sorry, we're all talking like this.
my parents taught me not to talk with my mouth full, but in this case, I will have to say thank you again, LaShaun.
Thank you for having
being
me.
here. Let's do this again soon. Let's go drinking, please.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you to everybody for being here through show number 239. I'm going to do a quick check of the calendar, and I believe just in time. By the way,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you don't look anything like R. Kelly. Just so you know, I can't even reconcile the two images.
That's just sorry. I didn't mean to make it weird. Yeah. dude.
I believe we will be joined next week by our buddy Trey Boring, our
that'd be
legal expert.
awesome. I love Trey.
And there's all kinds of stuff going on in the cigar battles in Congress and all of that. So he will bring us up to speed next week. Have a wonderful week, my friends. Thank you, Adam, on the Wheels of Steel. Thank you, LaShaun. Let's do this again. Thank you, guys.
If I was a Jedi, my lightsaber would just be brown like a cigar.
Have a great week. Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Oh, my goodness.
That is so good.
Get out of here.